We're testing.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. This is the Cat Women show.
Exactly.
Cat Ladies show.
We've changed this. The focus is no longer going to be on music. It's going to be on cats. Oh my god.
Muses and felines.
Okay, this is our second episode. And today we're going to be talking about... What did we decide?
Inspirations and influences and inspirations.
Yes, that was actually such a common question that we decided to make it a whole topic.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about, who our influences are, and, we just kind of decided that we'll get the common, obvious influences out of the way and then talk about other things that might influence us that people may not have known about. When I was 11, I want to say, I discovered Extreme through my brother, Ethan Brosh. He's a great professional guitar player. And, Ethan was the reason I wanted to play guitar, and Extreme, their record, Porn and Graffiti, was the first guitar record that I was, heavily influenced by and, wanted to emulate, not realizing that was going to take some work.
Just a little bit of practice for that.
Just a little. And then, I got, heavily into guitar music after that. Loved Iron Maiden and all those bands and hair metal and all those things, and, got into, a lot of the Shrapnel guys, and, I got some of my biggest influences are Andy Timmons and Greg Howe and Guthrie Guttin and Steve Lukather and Dan Huff. There's just too many to name, but, I think the obvious ones I've kind of worn on my sleeve in previous years, so, sorry if I forgot anybody, but what about you, Gretchen?
My influences. Okay, so I first decided I wanted to pick up a guitar when I saw Eric Johnson play. And
I love Eric.
I do too. And like a lot of people, Cliffs of Dover was what I was like, oh, that's the most joyous sound I've ever heard.
You know what? It's actually not my favorite Eric Johnson tune.
Is it? What's your favorite?
Manhattan.
Manhattan's right too.
I love it so much.
It is. Maybe my biggest and most enduring influence was Steve Morse. And it was, I remember still seeing in this, it was a magazine that came out, and the first, God, I wish I could find it, because the sentence was something, it was a picture of Steve Morse, who to me just looked like such at a time when Eric Johnson's wearing kind of Jimi Hendrixy stuff, and Steve Vai's always had this total rock star image and stuff. Steve Morse just looked so normal, and so he didn't fit my imagination of what a rock star looks like. And the article started off more aggressive than Eric Johnson, more musically spacious than Joe Satriani, more, I don't remember what it was.
Comparisons.
I know. And more something or other than Steve Vai. So at this point, these were the three guitar players who I most liked. So I immediately was annoyed by this article. And I remember bringing it to my dad and being like, look at this bullshit. And he was like, do you know who Steve Morse is? And I was like, I don't need to know. Whatever. And he was like, no, I mean, he's amazing. And so, and he was going to be playing at Stanford, near where I lived. And so my dad took me to the show, and I remember watching it and just being dumbfounded. And immediately going out and buying all of the albums, all the Dregs albums and everything, and then going to my guitar teacher. At that point I'd been taking, I'd taken maybe 4 guitar lessons, and going to Sam, my guitar teacher, and saying,
I want to learn a Steve Morse song.
I want to learn too many notes.
Oh,
That's
boy.
what I asked to learn.
Again, we both kind of went in with tall orders, huh?
And bless Sam, he totally didn't laugh at me. He was just like, okay. And I remember going downstairs, and he tabbed out the first bit for me. And
really, 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 really slow.
And he totally showed it to me, and then I worked on it for the next decade, and I still can't play it. And then Jeff Beck, when I discovered Jeff, and I discovered Jeff Beck in reverse. It was because both Eric Johnson and Steve Morse talked about him being one of their influences. So
that's always a really good way to kind of discover where you came from. You know?
Yeah, I remember my first Jeff Beck show, like trying to remind myself, like, Gretchen, there's no crying at rock shows. Those are the only, like, the most essentials, but, you know, because of course Andy Timmons, Greg Howe, like,
yeah, I know,
how
and
can
that's
you
the
narrow it
thing.
down?
It's just like you know, you don't name people, and then people are like, "What about blah blah blah?" Well, yeah, I love a lot of people, and it's just kind of, ow, what are you doing?
She's snuggling too hard.
That's okay. Forgive her.
Yeah, look at
Anyway, should I know they're way too distracting. Should we move on to the less obvious?
Are there ways in which your influences have inspired you beyond just fingers on a fretboard?
The ones that I've mentioned? Yeah.
Or any of them.
Well, okay, so I'll say this, as far as specifically answering to your point, I'm lucky in the sense that I've gotten to meet a lot of my heroes, and I think there's a lot of people who say, you know, I don't want to meet some of my heroes because I don't want to discover that they might be not such great people and it would burst the bubble, and I totally understand that, but I don't know if I don't know what it is, maybe it's just coincidence, but I'm very happy to say that, like, the influences of mine who I know and I'm, like, privileged enough to call friends are really amazing people that aren't completely inspirational on more than one level. I mean, I remember growing up and being, like, the only little girl at, like, any kind of show that
any guitar geeky show
that I was even able to go to.
Right.
If I was under 18 or 21. But I was, you know, lucky enough to be able to attend some sound checks, and that was the way that I was going to see the members.
See the members.
Let's continue on topic here. When Guthrie first became really popular, I think it was pretty easy to be able to tell that he's just a normal dude that likes playing guitar, you know, and
a normal, freakishly good guitar player.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? It's like, I think you said it best, that, like, he is as well respected and popular as he is for no other reason other than pure merit. And I think it's just really cool because it means that young kids have a really good role model with someone like him, because he's just a guy, you know? He's not, like, telling kids to do drugs because it's rock and roll and it's cool, you know? It's just like, kids have someone pure who's doing this for the love of the music and is famous for no other reason, and they have someone like that to look up to. And I think you can say the same about Andy and about Greg, and I've always loved that about all of them, that they just have these, like, normal lives where they work hard and they're musicians first and everything else second, and I've always loved that. So that has inspired me, you know? They're nice people, and actually, I just recently saw Greg do a clinic, and, you know, it's not the first time, but what was really funny is, I don't know if you know this, it's public already, so I feel like I can say this, but Greg was mentioning that he has just recently replaced Andy in Simon Phillips' band.
Oh, really?
And I've gotten to see that band, like, many times, and I've always, like, been, like, so grateful to Simon, because it's like, because of you, I get to see Andy really often, come to where I live, and now it's the same with Greg. It's like, thanks to you, all my favorite guitar players are coming to visit all the time. But what was really cool is Greg was making the announcement that you know, he's going to be playing with Simon, and he was like, you know, I'm replacing Andy Timmons, and those are such huge shoes to fill, and, you know, I really love his playing. And just hearing two guys on such a high caliber talk about each other, like, oh my god, I have such huge shoes to fill, and I'm such a fan of yours, like, that's such a great example of why they're inspiring, because they really think like that.
I have a theory, and there are obvious exceptions, but who we are becomes how we play.
Yeah, I've always thought so too.
And I often tell my students, or people who are, like, asking for advice, it's like, yeah, practice your instrument, you know, do all the things that everybody tells you to do, but for a couple of reasons, focus on being a good person and a person with integrity.
People don't say that enough.
Right. And one of the reasons is obvious, which is, like, if you're a pain in the ass to be around, nobody wants to be in a van with you or a tour bus. Like, like, the person with the good attitude and adequate chops gets the gig every day over the person with mad chops and a shitty attitude. But also for the for the art that you're going to create, you know, people who are megalomaniacs generally play like megalomaniacs. The things that I've taken away from some of my heroes that aren't specifically the notes or the way they play or anything like that is like, I love that Jeff Beck has always totally followed his own kind of creative path.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he hasn't done the stuff necessarily that's the easy, you know, the more obvious choices. Like, he's done things because he's wanted to do them. And he reinvents himself all the time. And he doesn't really explain or apologize for anything. He just does his thing. Jeff Beck's created his own ball game. Mm-hmm. Nobody sounds like him, so in a way you don't compare him to anybody because why?
He's in his own league.
Hey there. Steve Morse is just such a stellar human being. Like, he's so smart. He's so positive. He's so generous. Like, if you read any of the columns he wrote, he had a column called Open Ears, and it was like advice, like real world practical advice. Or if you've ever been to a clinic or gotten to talk to him, he's so grounded. He's so practical. He's so clearly in love with music and also has a very grounded approach to life. Mm-hmm. And he said something, our buddy Jude Gold has a podcast called No Guitar Safe.
Which you were just on.
I was just on it. I was like so totally honored. And actually, it was a good lesson in being interviewed by a good friend because boy was I unfiltered. Like, and Jude left some stuff on there that I was like,
I still need to hear it. I haven't gotten a chance to yet.
It got me my second explicit rating on Amps and Axes.
Yes!
I also got an explicit rating.
Nice.
But at the end of the Steve Morse podcast with Jude, he said the most beautiful thing, and he was saying that one of the things he believes is that anybody who has a platform, a microphone, or some way where their voice is heard by a larger group of people, even if it's a modest group of people, that you have a personal responsibility to really be mindful about what you put out into the world.
Yeah, exactly. That needs to be said.
It was so beautiful. I mean, it was truly... Ow! Oh. Okay, so Frances has emotional problems.
Just bit me. I've never been bitten by a cat. I've been bitten by a dog.
It's awful and it's embarrassing, and she's in timeout now. Oh, she were bleeding, honey.
A little bit. It's okay. It's not a big deal. All right, tell me one thing that inspires you or influences you, whether it's somebody or something that people wouldn't expect that might be different for music.
I should have thought of my answer first. A lot of stuff that I read inspires me. Well, I mean, that's... Obviously, I just did an album that's a concept album.
Right.
And actually, even before Mike Melinda approached me with the concept, I was already thinking of trying to fuse literature somehow with it, like write music that would go along with some program.
Okay, so name one book, and not Dante's Inferno, because that's too obvious, but give me one book that inspires you musically, but it's like a novel or...
Well, okay, I can tell you what I was thinking of, and actually what I've read a million times is I love Macbeth.
Okay.
So...
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
What about you?
Okay, totally out of left field, right? It has nothing to do with music, and though, of course, I think probably all artists...
Wait, maybe I know. Well, tell me.
I don't think it's what you're thinking.
It's not? Should I say what I'm thinking to see how well I know
Sure.
it? Is it gymnastics?
Yeah.
See, I know this girl. I know it.
No, I know. I thought you were going to say The Lion
like...
King, which is, like, super obvious. No, I mean, like, I was going to say that I think all artists are, like, influenced by other art, you know, it's like pretty hard not to, it's hard to go to a museum and not be inspired, you know, if the art is moving and all that. I guess that depends on what's showing, right? But no, for me, like, a lot of people like ask me what the deal with the gymnastics is, because it's like it's so different, and you know, I think a lot of times it's like really young girls that are into that. But for me, it's just like it's a specific thing. Like, I mean, I think, you know, the Olympics happen every 4 years, and I think most people get pretty inspired by that or motivated. But for me, it's just like, you know, other than the fact that they perform death-defying moves that everybody's just kind of like, that's incredible physically, I think that, like, any performer in any medium or anything that they do kind of understands how hard the mental game is and how much that's so much harder than any skill that you do, because like not to psych yourself out when you're playing guitar live is way harder than whatever the lick might be, right? And no matter how many times you've done it at home, it always feels different, and you know, I think everybody's encountered that, and that's the hardest part. And so to me, what's really amazing about those girls, especially that they're so young, is that they have to be masters of that. And that's already so much harder than the death-defying moves that they do. That's like really amazing. And plus they have this amazing work ethic when they're 15, 16, whatever. And that's incredible. And I think that's, because they're so well known, way more well known than anything that we may do in our lifetimes, and they're really young. Like, talk about personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're so public, and I think they're really good role models for,
that's beautiful.
really young kids.
That.
And I love it. I mean, I just think it's super motivating because their lives are about pretty, hard work and pure things, and it's like, how can you not be inspired by that?
Did you ever do gymnastics?
No, I wish I had. I really want to, like, learn some tumbling and all that. Like, I'm gonna do it at some point, but I'm just scared that, like, something's, it's like, probably, yeah. All right, Doroka Premanik, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, asks, what other types of music do you guys like apart from guitar-driven music that might surprise people?
You want to go first?
All right. Okay, I don't know if this is going to surprise... You know what the answer to this, too. We know each other so well. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to surprise people. I mean, I do have a few.
Yeah.
Boy bands, 90s boy bands. Backstreet Boys being at the top of the list. My dream gig, by the way, if you're out there.
You should hire her. She's amazing. And she is fun to hang with.
Oh, good. Thanks. I tried so hard. Anyway, film scores, not necessarily famous ones or not necessarily ones that people may think. It's just kind of like, I mean, I grew up watching movies and TV and just like whatever hits my ears and I think it sounds pleasant. I think I just draw a lot of stuff from that I, not necessarily even remember, but just it all comes to me. Middle Eastern music, both like of the pop persuasion that I grew up with, and Turkish music.
I'm just gonna wait until my cat stops shitting.
This is very real.
This is up close and personal.
Coming to you live
from Francis's dump. I love composed music, so Baroque, classical, romantic, 20th century. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to be like, I really like Mozart. It's like, well, yeah, I really like something that's good. But yeah, I do really like Mozart.
What are some of your favorite albums that influenced you?
Wanna go?
Sure. I mean, I guess I already said Extreme, but Pornography is my favorite album of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. We're just gonna say one?
Oh, I mean, I could go on. I'm just trying to be conservative here.
How many? Here, let's say three.
Three.
The first three that come to your mind.
Okay, so that one, Steve Stevens' Flamenco Go-Go, which is really cool. It's like flamenco and electronica and pop and instrumental and vocal and like all these things. It's really amazing and super underrated, really musical. And Extraction, Greg Howe.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Well, Greg Howe, Victor Wooten, and Dennis Chambers.
Cool. Steve Morse, High Tension Wires.
It's a good one.
Oh, such a good one. Jeff Beck, Guitar Shop, probably.
That one? Okay, I would have been...
Which one would you have said?
Blow by Blow.
I like that one too. It's hard to pick a Jeff Beck album.
Yeah.
And then I'd say Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli Quintet of the Hot Club of France.
Nice. This is for Gretchen. How difficult is it, after covering Jimmy Page so incredibly well and for so long, to completely separate yourself from that when doing your own music? I hear little to no Page in what you do in your own creations, and I find that in itself to be amazing, among so many other things.
Oh, that's from Bob Schoolcraft, too.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob, you're awesome, and he's the guy who started the Zepparella official fan page on Facebook, and he's awesome. A great guitar player himself. Well, thank you. That's a very nice question. I think I never have consciously tried to sound like or unlike anybody. I think probably if I don't sound like Jimmy Page, maybe it's just because of how many other influences get in there as well.
Excuse me.
Actually, you know what? I should say on my latest album, I did do the second to the last track, Beast. I did intentionally kind of do some nods to Jimmy on that.
Cool. Should we go to us asking a question?
Okay, yeah.
Alright, so we got a question for you now. Our question for this episode is, who are your non-obvious influences / inspirations, whether it be a musician, a teacher, family member, friend, or maybe another artist or different medium or different art outside of music? Love to hear what you think.
Yeah, leave your responses in the comments below or tag us on Facebook, and we would love to hear what you guys think.
So thanks for watching, and join us next time on the next episode of Muses and Musings with Gretchen Menn, and I'm Nili Brosh, and we'll see you next time.
Ferdinand.
And Ferdinand says bye. You're so cute. He didn't get a timeout because he was behaving well.
I know, he doesn't ever need a timeout. He's just a
He didn't
snuggle.
bite me like the other one.
Frances has problems.
No, I love her
really
though.
does. She has problems. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm always getting the explicit ratings.
Oh shit. See? Duh. Just hear the camera.
I think it might have been over there. Sorry, Ferd. This is about to be over.